As Councilmember Sales mentioned, this is so appropriate that we're celebrating both of these months and occasions together. This is kind of the unofficial kickoff to what's going to be a long week of activities, not only here in Montgomery County, but across our country to commemorate Juneteenth. And we have a number of individuals who I'm going to introduce. We're going to hear from one, but I want to introduce everyone. We have Jim Stowe, our Director of Office of Human Rights. We have Elijah Wheeler, who's the chair of our African American Advisory Group, who I see, who's always hiding. We have Jason Green, who's the chair of our Commission on Remembrance and Reconciliation. Let's see Jason. Anita Powell, the president of Lincoln Park Historical Foundation. Cherie Branson, former Councilmember Branson, who's the third vice president of the Montgomery County NAACP. Harriet Shangari, who is and Fatmata Berry, and several others from the African Affairs Advisory Group. I think I saw Moomin and Mona. Is he Mona May and Vice Chair? Yes, where's Mona? Oh, there. Okay, hello. And then we have, is Mark? Did I see Mark? Where's Mark? Mark. There's Mark. Mark Thorne. No, the other Mark. Mark Elrich, our county executive, and Mark Thorne, who is the historic site manager at the Montgomery Parks and manages the Josiah Henson Museum and Park. And if you haven't been there, make sure you check that out. And we were going to have Professor Sylvia Hollis, who's a professor at Montgomery College, who is of African American history, but she had family issues, so couldn't be here. So Juneteenth. So welcome everybody. I'm going to read something that doesn't get read a lot because I think it's important this Juneteenth. What Juneteenth is a commemoration. June 19th. It's now a federal holiday this is our third year. Took a while, but we got there. It has been celebrated for hundreds of years by African American communities as our second Independence Day. And you'll hear more about that. And it formally commemorates the day that U.S. General Gordon Granger came before a crowd in Texas to read the general order that had been implemented by President Lincoln to officially and legally free all enslaved peoples. And I want to read just a portion of it because I think it's important to what we're celebrating. The quote, "The people are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States," and I'm going to use the word slaves, but people are not slaves, people are enslaved. But this is what the language said. "All slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them become that between employer and hired labor. The freed are advised to remain at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere." End quote. I think a lot of times when we tell the story of Juneteenth, we tell the celebratory part of it. We forget the part that enforced and created a system of bondage in another name. And so it reminds us of kind of the duality of being American, that we make progress and we take steps forward, but we still have so much to do. In fact, we are in a modern abolition of slavery movement right now, where 7 states have formally abolished slavery. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery except in the incidents of servitude. We have over 30,000 people incarcerated in the state of Maryland. 70% of them are African American, and many of them are working for less than $1 a day to produce things for institutions across this state. We are part of a movement even today to realize the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. So we are commemorating. It's going to be fun this week. And we're going to hear from shortly some of our folks from the Scotland community who are forming one of the most exciting and fun Juneteenth celebrations that we have this year. We will also have our county celebration up in Germantown at Black Rock. So there's going to be a lot going on. But I want to invite and thank Letitia Gassaway for coming here and presenting and talking a little bit about Scotland, since this will be kind of a new thing for our county.
Good afternoon. As Councilmember just said, it's Freedom Day. Break them chains. Use your voice. Use the voice that we have that once we weren't allowed to use. We're making sure that we represent our ancestors well. We are their wildest dreams. This year for Juneteenth, it's trying to be one of the longest running in the DMV, events in the DMV for Juneteenth this year. We are starting from June 17th and we are going all the way to June 19th. It all goes down. June 17th, we have so many different events. We go from the Bethesda Blues and Jazz Club. We also have health and wellness. We have the county participating. We have the village. We have Cabin John Parks. We have Cabin John Village. Just several events happening. We also have, talking about Caribbean, we have Wyclef Jean coming this year. We have Taurus Valley. You know, we have Patrice Roberts, Ricardo Drew. We have we have Egyptian, yes, we have Egyptian. We have so many different events happening just this year, and we just want to encourage everyone to come fellowship with us, because that's what Juneteenth is. It's about feasting, it's about fellowship, it's about faith. We are the rock that we stand on, all right? We are just that. So we want to make sure that we represent and we praise God. It's Freedom Day.
All right. County Executive Elrich, you want to make any comments? Then we'll read the proclamation.
So the end of slavery couldn't have come soon enough, but I think it's worthwhile noting that when the president then issued the Emancipation Proclamation, all the people who were slaves in the states that the Union controlled remained slaves. The only people he freed were the people he couldn't free. And he gave those states 6 months to come back to the Union. And if they come back to the Union, he was not going to move against slavery. So we have a complicated history with this. And it's not like we started a war, got into a war with the purpose of ending this evil institution. It came about in the course of the war, but it's important to get a context on it, because it is important to understand even the limits of Lincoln and his thinking about what freedom should have meant in the United States. What I'm really happy about now is, until the last couple of years, Juneteenth was almost invisible here, largely. And when you look at the events being planned for the weekend, there are a lot of events being planned all over the county, and it is actually getting the status and the recognition that it should get. And I'm really happy that that's coming about, and I look forward to doing more in the coming years. This is just the start of what we should be doing with this holiday. Thank you.
Director Stowe, 30 seconds on your events. Literally 30 seconds. Maybe a minute.
Baptist preacher, 30 seconds. Come on. All right. Anyway, we are, first of all, excited about this. But one thing I guess I want to say real quickly, too, is that when Granger reached this General Order number 3, there was not immediate excitement. A person, first of all, didn't know what he was talking about. What does free mean? After years and years and decades of bondage. And so until we free the mind, M-I-N-D, are people truly free. And so we hope then through Juneteenth that we begin to help us again free our minds, and your minds out there, by the way, about the importance of all of our contributions to making this country the country that is, and more importantly, the country that can be. It is forming the more perfect union. It's critically important for us. And so we hope then that you come out and be a part of all these marvelous events that are going on Saturday, and you're going to hear it first. I'm going to now announce to you persons who have been chosen by our county executive as our African American living legends. These are persons to whom in our community have been named. One of them is, in fact, sitting here before us right now with the ambassador here. Thank you. Good to see you again, sir. But these are persons who've given their life contribution throughout their years here in Montgomery County. And they had to be at least 75 years young to be part of this profession. Listen, now let me tell you why I'm doing that, right? We don't have an opportunity in this community, again, to acknowledge and appreciate our elders, right? If you don't care about the young within your society and the older person within your society, society is doomed. And so we believe that it's important to recognize our elders in this part of this process. So this year's recipients are Mr. Henry Hellstock, the Reverend Teresa M. Henderson, Miss Pauline Johnson, Miss Sheila Ogilvie, Vernon Ricks Jr., and Dr. Shelton Ivan Ware, who just turned 100 this year. So we're excited about that person being named. So let's give a round of applause in their absence. Lastly, and Councilmember Jawando said that's actually 45 and a half seconds, Jim. But anyway, so on the 16th, we'll be honoring these persons at Black Rock Center for the Arts on Friday the 16th. So please come out. This is an open event for the general public. We want to salute them not only through these kinds of ways by recognition, but also our presence. And so please come out on the 16th at 7 o'clock, Black Rock Center for the Arts, for our recognition of our African-American living legends. And then on the 17th, join with our colleagues from Scotland and other places all across. Lincoln Park, as an example, has got a big thing going. Kensington has an event going on as well. A lot of activities going on. Also, we've got activities happening at Glen Echo Park, as an example. So a lot of things going on throughout the area. Please find a place to plug in. But on Saturday from noon until 6 p.m., will be activities going on at Black Rock Center for the Arts in Up County. We want to celebrate Up County, number one. But number two, the events going on start with all kinds of things going on to include. We have Black authors there. We're going to have also the spoken word. We're going to have also dance that'll be going on. An outdoor stage to feature the Chuck Brown Band. We'll also be featuring a young lady who is really, really up and coming in the rap world. Her name is Sarak. Also, we'll be featuring again our own Marcus Johnson. And somebody for me, the classic voices of soul. The 60s and 70s is what I'm talking about. So at any rate, something for everybody throughout the day. We even got a children's section that'll be primary for that purpose. So at any rate, you see then there'll be something. And by the way, let me say this before I sit down, I'll go back to my position here. It is free. Thank you, County Council. Thank you again, Mark Elridge. It is free for the public. So come out and be a part of it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's free ourselves. Here we go. The County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland. Whereas Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States, becoming a federal holiday after the dedicated efforts of Miss Opal Lee, the grandmother of Juneteenth. At 89, Miss Lee walked from her home in Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. to deliver 1.5 million signatures to Congress, calling on lawmakers to make June 19th a national holiday. Her efforts led to the legislation being passed and signed by President Biden in 2021. And whereas the Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Abraham Lincoln 160 years ago in 1863 legally freed enslaved individuals in the Confederacy that were not yet under Union control. Many enslavers, including those in Montgomery County, continued to hold on to free men, women, and children captive for years after the announcement. In 1860, Montgomery County had a population of 18,322, including some 5,500 enslaved and 1,500 free blacks. Maryland would remain a slave-holding state until the Maryland Constitution of 1864 outlawed slavery on November 1st, 1864. And whereas General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865, and announced the end of the Civil War and the end of slavery. There were still 250,000 enslaved people in Texas at that time. That day became known as Juneteenth, a symbolic date representing African-American freedom in the United States, even though it was not until the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery, and we talked about we're not done with that, in the U.S. on December 6, 1865. And finally, whereas slavery and the white supremacist mindset that fueled it set the foundation for hundreds of years of systemic and institutional racism with devastating consequences to Black, Indigenous, and people of color in the United States. And while Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom, it also highlights the injustices that were suffered and are still felt to this day. Now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby commemorates and celebrates Juneteenth, and be it further resolved that the County Council recognizes the full history of the United States and its people for the betterment of our society and encourages all county residents to do the same. Presented on this day, the 13th of June in the year 2023, signed by myself and the council president on behalf of all council members. Happy Juneteenth, y'all.